Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Joe Cutter Down welcoming you to another Degrassi Top 10. And we're talking about the top 10 blackholed characters in Degrassi history. To be a blackholed character, you have to have been prominent within the Degrassi community and then practically just disappear with little mention of you leaving and all that. So there are some characters who actually did get some mentions after their final appearance on the show, but logically, like they're just like it's like where the heck were they when with their family strife and all that. I know there's one that will be a little controversial in the 1 to 6 poll, but anyway, so I did the 7 to 12 poll and all that. Now, if you're thinking, well, 7 to 12, obviously it's a top 10, right? Right. But what I have decided to do, well, take the top four in the 7 to 12 poll and put them in the top 10. Now, I actually have found out there's a three-way tie for seven. So 7, 8, 9 is tied for first. I mean, well, tied for first in the poll, meaning they're tied for seventh. But number 10 is clear. But anyway, the two people from the 7 and 12 poll you'll see at the end who did make it was Cindy and Miss O. So here we go. Number 10 is Farisa in the episode Can't Believe the Hype was her only appearance and it was needed. So Can't Believe the Hype. I know I did a video about talking a couple years ago saying that it's one of the most underrated episodes in Degrassi history. Still is a couple years later. The fact of the matter is that everyone's ready for International Day, which they dress up in their cultures and try to pass themselves off. You know, Paige in a Ukrainian dress serving pierogies to Mr. Raj, who's wearing a kilt. Snake in a Swedish gear. Spinner doesn't have a set nationality. His mom wouldn't tell him. And Hazel pretends to be Jamaican and all that. But one girl named Fariza, who was from Iraq, calls her out on it, basically saying that Arden's Somalian. Hazel insults Fariza with the fashion police and the fact is don't let Jamaica bomb Iraq. Unfortunately, though, Fariza's Iraq thing gets sprayed with hate speech and all that. Raj accuses Hazel because of Hazel's comment towards Fariza, but thankfully, though, it was a couple of other kids, so Hazel's free, but Raj says words hurt. Hazel feels bad for Fariza, and when Fariza is told to put her display in front of the school's entrance, where it would be portrayed throughout the week, and everyone will have to look at it, Hazel offers to help and then tells Fariza about her Somalian heritage, and it got her jumped. Fariza scoffs, saying that you sure learned from them. Hazel then decides to tell her story about being Somalian, and Terry basically tells Hazel, well, why don't you wear your hijab? Well, Hazel is in the position, she wears it for prayers and religious stuff, but she doesn't have to take on a full time pledge. Her parents are okay with it. But Farisa, to me, has got to be the greatest one episode wonder in Degrassi history because, like, you know, she was there trying to help cultural appropriation and to also, you know, have the narrative of things. Here's the thing the episode aired in December 2002, strictly 16 months after 9/11 hit. Of course, in the United States, it was later in the year 2000. It was early 2023, 2003, excuse me. But in Canada, it was December 2002. So it was just amazing. And then they would have discussion on hate and all that, and we show signs of that discussion happening throughout the classrooms. Why the heck can this not be happening? All right, so all right, number 9 on the list is Chris, Emma's boyfriend in season 3, only there in season 4 to go after Emma. Well, Farisa, we would like to see Farisa sing. But anyway, with Chris, it's like, well, a lot of us are glad he's blackholed. But the fact of the matter is that he deserved better. So anyway, in season three, Emma has eyes on Chris, who's this DJ, and kind of likes Emma back. So Emma decides to go to a rave where Chris is DJing alongside Minnie and Craig. And then Emma finds out that Chris is having problems with his girlfriend Miranda. And Minnie says, "Go after him, go get him." And Emma says, "I can't be that evil." So she practically wrestles it and then wants to comfort Chris and doesn't want to destroy his relationship with Miranda. So she leaves it at that. She decides to go try to find Minnie and Craig to go to leave the rave. One problem. They're gone. And worst of all, Emma finds out that Minnie and Craig snuck into the basement to, you know, have sex on Emma's bed. Emma's protrude. Well, Emma, the reason why she's in the basement is because, baby Jack needed room in season three. So Emma basically is scoffing at Manny and all that. Well, she does end up being with Chris. Like she manages to get with Chris, and it was problematic, mostly because of Emma's need to destroy the candy bandits for stealing stuff. I mean, she had the right idea because Snake's laptop was stolen by the candy bandits, but she was persistent and she pretty much proved to Chris that she just wanted to destroy Sean from moving on from her so fast. Emma had problems. Chris snaps at Emma. Emma feels like she lost Chris, but Snake tells her that, if you love somebody, he'll come back. So Chris and Emma are back to being a couple because of Emma apologizing relentlessly. And they don't really have much problems after that moment. But then in season four, we find out they're broken up. They have an awkward encounter, and Liberty has eyes on Chris. Emma doesn't want that to happen. And Manny thinks that, oh, Emma wants to be back with Chris. Fair enough. But no, Emma basically says that maybe if Chris and Liberty go out, what does that do for me? And then it's like, well, why would it matter? I mean, Emma, people talk bad about you sticking your nose in where it doesn't belong and your causes. Now you care about that? It's kind of her glow up, though. She had a massive glow up between seasons three and four, and I think she was above her own station. Emma rightfully loses Chris and Manny and Liberty as friends. And then for some strange reason, it led to her trying to get into Paige's friend group to destroy Rick, and then has Emma stopping the violence against Rick because it's not part of her group. So anyway, she gets, Rick's advances in the bad way possible. But yeah, Chris popped up in the episode after Secret, when Emma's gonorrhea was told to the students. It was like, what the hell? So basically, Chris was only there to destroy Emma's self confidence, and then he disappeared. I think this was one that we know should not have happened. Anyway, number 8 is Derek. Reason being, well, he was a jerk in season 8, but then like what happened to him? I would have loved to see if Derek turned things around. Anyway, Derek was introduced in season 5, was it? Yeah, as Danny's friend and all that, because Danny was to have JT as a friend, but JT kind of got his sister pregnant. But anyway, yeah, Derek and Danny were together. And Derek was not the douchey guy we would see in later seasons. He was decent and all that. He tried to help Liberty out with putting the baby for adoption, saying that he was adopted too. And then tells Liberty to make a memory chest for the little boy who was going to go to Seattle. It will work. And then, that was fine. But then by season 6, he started getting douchey and all that, especially playing up a racial stereotype to destroy Danny from going with this girl named Rachel in season 7, who was a former Lakers student. So yeah, Derek was just idiot. And well, everyone says about the Perino incident. Well, yes, Derek deserved to get called out by Perino, but Perino basically took it a step too far. Basically, at the bus stop, a seemingly innocent bus stop conversation, Perino basically threatens Derek and all that. If Perino was calm about the situation, I think that it would make sense. But it made Perino look like a bully. and all that. He wants what's best for everyone, but he comes off as being crass and all that. And Simpson took Perino to task. But nevertheless, season 8 was just terrible. Derek was just picking on Jane for being on the football team. They had a fight. Principal Shep excuses Derek in a sense, like basically tells Jane, no special treatment. I told you. There's a fine line between special treatment and protecting your players. Jane, of course, leaves the football team, and then the chef gets canned because of that comment about Connor. And logically, Derek even walks out on the chef, finally proving to everyone that he does have a good face. But then he disappears. And winning the 7-12 poll at number 7 is Lucas. He turned himself around in Jane Says, but he had no mention or appearances afterwards. So the problem is that, Lucas was portrayed in season 6 and 7 and most of season 8 as kind of a deadbeat dad, if you will. He was trying to fix the problem with trying to be a good dad and, trying to be a good dad to Izzy, but he just seemed to be very immature and not caring and all that, often leaving Izzy in the care of either his parents or Mia's parents. And like Lucas wasn't ready to have a family yet, but he should have been stepped up to the plate. He almost ruined the family in season 7 when he tried to get back together with Mia, and then they had that house party, and Isabella almost gets taken away from both of them. Mia has to sign some kind of pledge to keep ownership on Isabella, and then basically tells that the dad's a deadbeat, and kind of like Lucas never gets to see much. Lucas then finds out that his dad's back in his life, and Jane Says, the episode where the chef comes back from sensitivity training, people are just crapping on him. Rightfully so, I say. So what happens is that, you know, he wants to make his father proud, and he scoffs at Jane's accusations that his father had something to do with her. But then finally, the pieces fall together, and Lucas finally understands Jane, and then looks to see that his dad is making advances towards Izzy, and thinking the cycle of abuse is going to happen. So he rushes in and stops his father from having contact with Izzy, saying, "We just don't want you around anymore." Then Jane talks about it in family therapy. Lucas then chimes in, saying, "I'm sorry, I should have listened to you. I should have protected you better." But Jane gives him a pass, saying that we were just kids and you're here now, so you're making up for it. Worst case was that was his last episode. Jane says what's the last time he's seen, probably the last time he's mentioned. I didn't really watch much of 8 or 9. But the fact is that we would have loved to see a Lucas redemption arc. I would have loved to see if Lucas had cleaned his act up, be a better father than Izzy, and stepped up to the plate once Mia went to Paris. But I think she took Izzy with her. But I mean, Jane could have said something about her brother, but I don't know why she didn't. It just doesn't make sense. All right. So we have the 1-6 poll. There was another three-way tie, this time for fourth. So I have to break that. How do I break it? Well, it's telling me this. Okay, I'll take it this way. All right. Number 6 is Spike. A lot of people said she wasn't really blackholed. Well, she kind of was and wasn't. She had sporadic appearances in season 9, but she fell flat. Spike was a great OG and all that. Spike's the one who got pregnant by Shane. And season 1 of Degrassi Junior High just had to go there with the whole Spike is pregnant thing, teen pregnancy. And in the 80s, it's a lot different than the 2000s. So what ends up happening is that Spike has problems with her pregnancy, mostly because Shane refused to tell his parents about the pregnancy, because then Shane would be sent off to a boarding school because his father was an Anglican minister. But Shane finally steps up to the plate and accepts responsibility and wants to help Spike. However, Shane becomes kind of a prick in an episode, when he refuses to give Spike his allowance and buys concert tickets instead. And of course, Spike's fuming. Spike has the right to be fuming. I mean, Spike prevented Emma from being near Shane, like baby Emma to be near Shane. Like they prodded Shane to be with baby Emma, not knowing the whole scope. But anyway, Spike now had to deal with Shane falling off a bridge and being put in a mentally deficient home by his parents, who were probably too happy to get rid of him. Spike dealt with baby Emma kind of alone because, well, her mother, but her father ran out on her. It's like, what the hell? And then, she had different boyfriends and all that, including Snake in the last season of Degrassi. Hi. She's raising a daughter who's now become precocious, nosy, um, driven, but a little bit off-putting and all that. And people say when Emma is pushed to her limit, she snaps back without knowing the reasoning of things. Nevertheless, Spike proved to be a good mom and all that. Gave Manny advice about abortion in season 3. Married Snake, even though that Emma had her reservations. Emma finally let go of her reservations. And then, Spike just couldn't understand Emma's mood post time stand still and all that. I wish she had just gotten Emma the help and all that. Season 5, she dumped Snake off because Snake had an innocent kiss with Hatzalackles, but she thought it was more, and she didn't like the fact that Snake wanted Emma to keep the secret. She falls into some bad things. Fortunately, Snake wins Spike back. Everything's fine, and then Spike is part of the intervention, in which Emma blows off everyone. She blows off at Manny, she blows off at Peter, and Snake, she does blow off at Spike. I'm surprised she didn't. But anyway, Spike, in season 7, kind of was being a little unreasonable with the whole Snake situation. Snake wishes he could go back to school, but Lakehurst people make it not good and all that. Emma doesn't know what to do, and Spike tells Snake, "Don't get Emma involved because she'll have an eating disorder." Are you crazy? And then Spike decides to take Jack and Emma to her mom's place, but Emma stays behind saying someone has to be an adult about it, and basically throws shade at Spike. But Spike was a decent person who deserved more mentions and all that. I know you could kind of say Joey as well, like if you talk about the NG, but Spike didn't have a good ending. Number 5 is the one I talked about at the intro, and that's Darcy. Because a lot of you probably think that Darcy was in blackholed because she was mentioned post season 8. That would be true, but it's like, where the hell was Darcy with dealing with Claire's problems? So Darcy in season 4 was introduced as part of the Power Squad. And then she actually was the one that Toby paid $5 to kiss Rick and all that, and then gets Toby into trouble. So Darcy tries to do her thing. It's kind of weird she's on the cheerleading squad, even though she's a good, goody Christian girl. Most people don't. But the fact of the matter is, Darcy tries to fit in and all that, especially with Spinner in season 5 when Spinner loses his friends, loses everything after the whole Jimmy situation that he set Jimmy up to be shot. He didn't set Jimmy up to be shot. He set Jimmy up to be in trouble with Rick. But thankfully, though, Spinner finds Darcy to help him through his redemption arc in season 5. And they should have stayed together, but Darcy had a cheating heart and all that. And mostly because she heard about Spinner and Paige getting back together every so often. And then in season 6, she's basically brainwashed by Peter to be her boyfriend. The fact of the matter is that Peter did some bad stuff and all that. Darcy was warned by Emma and Manning, but Peter says they're just jealous because I tried to save the relationships and they basically turned on me. Basically, Peter was crying crocodile tears at Darcy, and Darcy believed him, even though that Peter gave bad photos of Darcy to this Adams guy. He didn't actually know Adams specifically. He just said that he was a chat guy, but didn't know the specifics. We can give him a pass on that, but what he did was wrong. WRONG, wrong. And why Darcy was stayed with him after that Adams situation, I don't know. But in season 7, she gets taken advantage of by some guy at a ski party. She doesn't know who it is, and he never got caught. Darcy goes into self-loathing and in her face to try to prevent her parents from finding out she got raped, because then that means that Darcy had sex with somebody, and that's a no-no. She tries to do something in the girls' shower, which I can't really repeat, but you know what I'm talking about. And then she jumps off the roof, or attempts to jump off the roof, when her accusations of Snake being inappropriate to her are wrong, and Emma threatens to snap at Darcy. Darcy then admits that she was not taken advantage of by the Simpson. She went to Brad camp. Peter signs himself up to help Darcy, and in one of the best moves Peter could do is help Darcy out with what happened to her. And then in season 8, she appears for a few episodes, trying to counsel Claire about high school, but then she disappears to Africa. Now, I know a lot of you will hate me for saying this, but I think it was not completely of Darcy's doing. I think Darcy had some chances to redeem herself, but then maybe her parents did because they wanted to get rid of the problem because of the whole Darcy situation and focus more on Claire and making Claire an honorable Christian woman. Of course, that blows up in everyone's face because Claire's parents get a divorce because of Randall, aka Claire's dad, having an affair and all that. Claire's mom does let up a little bit, let her hair down a bit, if you will. She marries Jake's dad, which means that Claire and Jake can't have a relationship. And Claire busts at the seams. But yeah, we would have loved to see Darcy talk about like Claire needing Darcy the most, especially when she had cancer and all that. It's like when Claire needed someone to talk to, like a sisterly bond, you know, she wasn't there. Like that would have been perfect. Now, of course, with the whole Maya situation, it's like Maya, where's Katie when you need her? But Katie was there for Maya by season 3 of Next Class, so that's different. All right, so number 4 on the list is Kwan, Miss Kwan. She was a great teacher in Degrassi Next Gen. She was built into the mold of Raditch when he was a teacher in Degrassi Junior High. Tough but lovable. Miss Kwan wanted the best for her students. She was being reasonable, but sometimes people just hated her for it. It's kind of like Joey with Raditch as his English teacher, and of course Spitter and Kwan having their bickering. But Kwan basically gets on Spitter's nerves and throws shade at Spitter whenever possible. And Spitter partially deserves it. But she went through a lot of stressful things. She had to teach night school for immigrants. She had to deal with Spitter and Jimmy giving her fits. She had a nervous breakdown and had to leave and all that. Fortunately, Jimmy and Spinner felt remorseful for their actions. She was a good guiding light. She was dependable and all that. She was likable. I mean, not a lot of people hated her for it. I kind of hate her because she says all this stuff about Raj has these cameras and all that and can catch everything going on and with audio, and I'm like, that's not her business to tell her stuff about that. Yeah, it's some kind of tactic and all that, but basically that outs Raditch as being a prick. So she's inadvertently getting Raditch into deep trouble. But yeah, she was okay. Like people liked her for it. I got a dead like her too. Number 3 is Dave. Dave gets voted in at number 3. Well, Jaleel French has passed away. I believe that's the last major Degrassi character actor to die. The last major actor as a major character to die. I know there have been other Degrassi characters, people who've played spots in Degrassi who have died, but anyway. So Dave is a great guy. He went into Degrassi trying to be the life of the party and all that. He was Shantae's cousin. Of course, Shantae rolled her eyes at Dave and all that. And Shantae was basically there for like what 10 seasons. Well, that's a joke, but nevertheless, Dave was comic relief. Unfortunately, Dave had some homophobic tendencies towards Adam and some very bad things. He even tased Wesley. So, like, Dave was just trying to be friendly, but it just did not compute. Does not compute. He did have a good relationship with Jacinda, but Jacinda was kind of a stalker to him. And then she got hurt in a crash, and Dave felt bad. Dave and Allie were going to be a decent couple, but Dave was not too pleased with Allie's fast tracking to be an MIT. I mean, like, Dave, you should be supportive. Why the hell can't you be supportive? And then, of course, he actually gets blackholed. He doesn't graduate, and we don't know much about what happened to him. I wish we knew. Anyway, number two is Wesley. Wesley was picked as the guy to be the new Toby, if you will. Although it must be said that it wasn't really Wesley, it was more like Connor. Because in season 8, when they reshipped shipped the Degrassi, reset the Degrassi generation and all that, they had Allie, Claire, Casey, and Connor together. Allie was supposed to be the new Manny. Claire was supposed to be the new Emma. Um, Casey was supposed to be the new Sean, and what? And Connor was supposed to be the new Toby. Of course, Connor had his problems with Asperger's syndrome as a fellow Aspie. I can understand that. So what ends up happening is that Wesley comes in, and he's just basically this nerd. He's pretty smart and all that. He forms a band with Dave and Connor, which is kind of cool and all that. A good friendship group, but they were basically passed off on things because the writers wanted better drama, and they gave Wesley barely anything noteworthy. It's kind of akin to Toby post Time Stand Still, because like how many good storylines was Toby in past season 4? Like the Time Stand Still thing when JT finally admits that Toby should not be chastised for being with Rick. Like one, two, three, I don't know. But yeah, Toby was pushed aside. That's kind of like Wesley's thing. They gave Wesley a storyline about him trying to break the world record for a pogo stick. Really? You couldn't find something else better? You know, he had a nice relationship with this girl named Hannah, and they were making an app to deal with ladies' clothing. And Connor, of course, in his clothes stealing phase, which is kind of stupid and all that. But yeah, Wesley was just there and he wasn't. So basically, they just tossed him aside. And the number one blackholed character in Degrassi history, and I think you'll probably know once you hear the words Degrassi blackholed character. Is it Kendra? Damn right, it's Kendra. Kendra is number one. So Kendra, was the epitome of Degrassi black hole. They actually had some kind of web page dealing with Degrassi black hole characters, and Kendra was the poster child. So Kendra was introduced in season 2 as this girl that Toby had eyes on, literally, as Toby would kind of stalk Kendra in a sense. Kendra and Toby liked geeky stuff, and Toby wanted to be with Kendra, but he draws the attention of Spinner because Spinner is Kendra's adopted. Kendra is Spinner's adopted sister. His parents adopted her from China. Spinner basically threatens to break Toby in half if he breaks his sister's heart. So anyway, Toby wants to be there for Kendra, but Toby at times in season 2 was a little bit too needy, and like Kendra wanted her space, but Toby thought that when she needed space, is that Toby worries that Kendra's going to break up with him. Kendra's like, I can speak for myself, and it's okay. You don't have to be with me 24/7. Toby basically gives this explanation. I think, in a sense, he's trying to explain that, maybe it's just insecurity. I mean, Toby was very insecure about himself. But Toby was a good guy in a sense. But it has to do with his parents' divorce and all that because, he's now part of a blended family with Ashley and her mom and, Toby's dad. So practically, Toby's trying to adjust to things. And then maybe with his parents' divorce and not liking each other, Toby's worried about, if he's not in a relationship, is he going to be a loser or is he going to fall flat? So, Toby had a lot of insecurity and all that. So Kendra and Toby were a decent couple and all that. And then we see Kendra less and less and less in season 3, like with Nadia. And then season 4, off screen, She's off screen. Well, Toby says that he and Kendra broke up off screen in the summer. Liberty and Towers broke up at the same time, and so did Chris and Emma. But the fact of the matter is that Kendra was physically unseen and all that. For years, we heard the rumors that Kendra was bumped off because her mother, Katie Ly's mother, was not happy with a potential storyline in which Toby and Kendra had sex or something like that, or were discussing it. So that's why Kendra was taken off the show. But in a few months ago, and this is being taped in July 2025, that Katie Lai actually did a podcast with somebody and said that she was being bullied by Degrassi, by some of the Degrassi actors. She didn't specify who. I could probably guess it was like Jimmy and Spinner, among others. And she basically would eat lunch almost alone, like with the girl with Nydia and a few other so-called outcasts. And then it got to be that she was kind of written off because she didn't want to go back to Degrassi and did not want to be bullied. But these are the 2000s, and things are a whole lot different nowadays than 25 years ago. So, anyway, what would Kendra have held on? I don't know. I know you could. I actually say Terry should have been in the blackholed thing and all that, but Terry's absence was as explained that she was off to a private school and all that. Kendra's absence was never explained. So that's the point. And thanks for watching this episode of Top 10. I'm Jeff Diamond Adu.